Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is another video in Learn to Knit Continental, and I've done a few videos before this one, so if you would like to know how to cast on and do the knit stitch and the purl stitch, I will link it down below, so go ahead and watch those if you're a complete beginner. However, if you can cast on, knit and purl, this is the mock English rib, and I'm going to show you how to knit it. So the first thing that you want to do is cast on a multiple of 4 plus 1, and then if you're knitting a scarf, you would want to add an edge stitch to make it beautiful on the side like this. I have knitted this section or this little sample in my leftover yarn from a cardigan. Is the Petite Wool by We Are Knitters. I've also knitted a little bit here in this lighter weight yarn, so you can see how it looks in a lighter yarn. It's beautiful. As you can see, the fabric, when the fabric starts to grow, it creates this zigzag because these knit stitches raise up to the front, like they pop out, and then you get a little bit of garter in between, and then you have a purl stitch that runs right through the middle, which is our knit stitch on the other side. So this stitch is exactly the same on both sides. This is the front and this is the back, so perfectly identical. I've worked a few rows here, so if you're just starting something, then you cast on, and then when you turn your work from your cast on, you will be on the wrong side. That's why I left it here on the wrong side, to show you how to work the setup row if you'd like. So here I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 23 stitches, so a multiple of 4 plus 1, and then I've got a stitch on both sides, so multiple of 4 plus 3. So the setup row would be like this. I'm going to knit the first edge stitch. Let's move this out of the way. So first stitch is the edge stitch. I'm going to knit it. Then I'm going to bring the yarn forward and I'm going to purl one. Leave the yarn to stay at the back, and I'm going to knit 3. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to bring the yarn forward to purl 1. So I'm going to repeat these four last stitches, knit 3, purl 1, all the way to 1 stitch left. So knit 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn forward to purl 1, yarn back to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn forward to purl 1, yarn back to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn forward to purl 1, yarn back to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn forward to purl 1, and now all I've got left is my edge stitch, which is always a knit stitch, so I'm going to knit it. So that will be your setup row after your cast on, and then you turn your work and you're on your right side of your work, and you're going to repeat these 2 rows that I'm going to show you. So the first stitch is an edge stitch, so I'm going to knit it. Then I'm going to knit 2. I'm going to bring the yarn forward to purl 1. I'm going to put the yarn back to knit 1. So I'm going to repeat these 4 stitches, which are knit 2, purl 1, knit 1. So knit 2, purl 1, knit 1. Knit 2, yarn forward, purl 1, yarn back, knit 1. Again, knit 2, yarn forward, purl 1, yarn back, knit 1. Knit 2, yarn forward, purl 1, yarn back, knit 1. All the way until you're left with 2 stitches. So I'm going to do one more repeat, knit 2, yarn forward to purl 1, yarn back to knit 1. And I'm left with 2 stitches, which I'm going to knit. So the first row is worked like this. Knit your edge stitch, then we're going to repeat this 4 stitch. Knit 2, purl 1, knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, knit 1, knit 2, purl 1, knit 1, all the way until you have 2 stitches left and you're just going to knit those 2 stitches. That's the right side row. Then we're going to turn our work and work a wrong side row. So again, the first stitch is the edge stitch. I'm going to knit it. Then I'm going to bring my yarn forward to purl 1. Then I'm going to put my yarn at the back to knit 3. So knit 1, 2, 3. Bring my bring my yarn forward to purl 1. So now I'm going to repeat these 4 stitches, which are knit 3, purl 1, all the way to 1 stitch left. So knit 3, yarn forward, purl 1, knit 3, yarn forward to purl 1, knit 3, yarn forward to purl 1, knit 3, yarn forward to purl 1. So I have 1 stitch left, which is my edge stitch. I will always knit that stitch. And there is the English, the mock English rib. Is beautiful. It would be so nice, even as a full garment, but it would be so nice as a hat. Also as a cuff for a sleeve, for the bottom of a sweater. So yeah, it's a beautiful stitch. Now I'm going to just do a few more rows so I can do a little bit of slow motion for this video so people could really knit along with it. right, so I just want to tell you one more thing about it, just in case you don't want to follow a chart or a row by row, just so you know how to tackle this ribbing by reading your work. So we always know the first stitch isn't the edge stitch, so we always knit the first stitch. Then you're going to look at your work and you're going to see, all right, so I have here my column of V's, which means that I need to knit this stitch and the one next to it, because I always purl the stitch in between these columns right in the middle. On both sides of the column of V's, you know you need to knit the stitch. So let me just see, where's my other needle. I'll just get this needle out. So on both sides of this column of V's, I know I need to do a knit stitch. And before that, it's always a purl stitch. So now that I'm on the column of stitches, I know I need to knit that one and the one next to it, because on both sides of it, there's always a knit stitch. And after that, if I look at the back of my work, I see the column of V's coming up, which means this is my purl stitch that will look like this on the other side. So I'm going to bring my arm forward to purl it. And then I'm one stitch before the column of stitches, which means I'm going to knit this stitch and this one and the one after, because on both sides of this column of V's I have a knit stitch. So I'm going to knit those 3 stitches, and then if I'm not sure where I'm at, I can just look and flip my work and see I've got V's here, which means this is my purl stitch. So I'm going to bring my arm forward to purl it. And then again, I'm one stitch before the column of V's, so I'm going to knit the stitch before it, knit the column of V stitch and the stitch after it. And of course, I know now that this is my purl stitch, and if I look here, I see there the V's coming up, which means I need to purl this stitch to show as a V on the other side. So let me just get to the end here. Oops, that's a knit, 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 purl, knit, and then knit the last 2. So let's say that you start to knit. So I'm going to knit, purl 1, then I'm going to knit 3, then I'm going to purl 1. Sorry about that, my doorbell just went, but it was perfect because that's what I wanted to show you in your work. So let's say that you've been knitting and then the doorbell went, and then you had to drop it that second and you have to come back for it. So you need to know how to read your work. That way you don't move stitches around. So I'm here. I can see that I've got my column of V's here, and I know that I always knit a stitch before that and after that, so I know that's where I am. And on top of that, if I look at the last stitch I worked is a purl stitch, so I know that I only do a purl stitch. Then I need to knit the next one and the next one and the one after the column of V's, and then if I flip my work, that's my purl stitch. So I purl it. So yeah, that's how you can read your work, so you know where you're at and you don't move stitches around. Yeah, that is the mock English rib, and I think it's beautiful. And you can knit it because you can knit, you can purl, and when you can knit and purl, and well, obviously when you can cast on, knit and purl, you can do a lot of different stitches with just those 2, knits and purls. And you can see here on this sample that we've done quite a few. So in previous videos we've done garter, 1x1 rib, 2x2 rib, plain stockinette, seed stitch, double seed stitch, then the garter ribbing here, and then the mock English rib, which is a little bit different than the garter ribbing. I think it's a lot prettier too. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you need any help, and if you have any requests for different techniques that you would like to learn as a beginner knitter, and I'll be happy to share it with you. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!